Council agenda, Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting of June 27th, 2003. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December the 21st, 2022, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December the 28th, 2022. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Would you please join us in the flag salute? Councilman DePiero?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Madden, please.
Mr. Karifi?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Mr. Musello?
Here.
Mr. Neglia?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Business Administrator Jamie Cryan, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, Township Clerk Colette Madden, Council President. We have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, July 11th, 2023 at 7 o'clock is our agenda meeting. July 25th at 2023 at 7 p.m. is our regular meeting. Mr. Neglia, please.
Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia? Ms.
Yes.
Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor Barbario?
Yes, I have a proclamation for Father, for St. Peter's the Apostle Church. I'd like to read, and I'll come up and give my report.
Please. It's the ring now. I hope we don't. Just do it again.
Proclamation, whereas St. Peter's the Apostle Roman Catholic Church is celebrating the 80th anniversary. Whereas since its founding in 1938 by Bishop Thomas McLaughlin, St. Peter's has ministered to countless residents of Parsippany, providing a place of faith, solace, and inspiration, while blossoming into a congregation of over 2,000 families. And whereas the parish of St. Peter's the Apostle began as a modest clapboard church before outgrowing its humble beginnings, and in 1988 building the beautiful church that draws worshipers today. Whereas St. Peter's the Apostle School opened in 1959, merging with St. Christopher's School and St. Anne's Church to form All Saints Academy in 2008, thereby continuing the ministry to the youth of the community. And whereas in 1984, the parish's first pastoral associate, Sister Sylvia Brzezinski, established the first outreach program for sick and needy, providing much-needed care and support for the community. And whereas in 2018, the Parish Center and All Saints Academy was renamed the Monsignor Herbert Tiller Center in honor of its long-serving pastor, who led the faithful from 1994 to 2019 for handling pastoral care of the parish community for Reverend David J. Pickens. And whereas, through the dedication and hard work of parishioners and pastoral staff, St. Peter's the Apostle Church has continued to grow and thrive, bearing witness to the religious fabric of families' lives as they celebrate baptisms, First Holy Communions, confirmations, the sacrament of marriage, and providing comfort as they bury their loved ones. Now therefore, I, James R. Barbario, the Mayor of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, do hereby recognize the significant role St. Peter's the Apostle Church has played in the lives of so many here in the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills on the momentous occasion of their 85th anniversary. Thank you, sir. You can still come up, Dave, it's not bad. If I may say one thing, Father. First, I want to also recognize the food pantry and all the families that should be there in Parsippany. I know, I go there countless times to, contribute, but I also want to say, as a parishioner, and I can't say enough about Monsignor Tiller, during the hard times of my family, Monsignor was there for my entire family, and it meant so much to my family, to myself, and, as I said, you're a fabric of the community, thank you. I can't bless you, God has to do it, but I thank you so very much for being part of our community. Appreciate it.
Congratulations, Father. Yeah, I don't think that's on.
Was it working?
No, I don't think that was on. It was a little low.
The phone was working.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you.
I think I spoke loud enough, though.
You did.
I definitely spoke about it.
Okay. There you go. Okay, tomorrow at noon, I'm proud to say we'll be swearing in 5 more police officers into the township of Parsippany-Troy Hills here in the chambers. As you know, it's been raining, storming, so due to the rain and storm, anyone having any difficulties, call the Mayor's Action Center or the BA, but if it's an emergency, call the police department. The farmer's market, I have to tell you, and I know I said this previously, has been very, very, very well accepted. This Friday, we'll be having our first band starting at 5:30, a local band that we're playing from 5:30 to 7. 4th of July is coming and Independence Day, and we will have the greatest event that I believe I've ever seen when it comes to fireworks here at Parsippany Hills High School. We're going to have also a concert, a band coming from California. They're local residents from the past, but they're phenomenal. So I recommend everybody come and see the fireworks. Update on the sign dedication, Council Vice President. The signs are being made as we speak. I'm going to get a sample of the signs. I just got to get the proper spelling of the names, and we should have that by next week. And then we can set up a date to do the dedications of the road. Yesterday was our first start of the summer program for playground. I was there and I attended. There was over 500 kids there. It was literally packed. That's something that we've been doing since I was a kid. I was the first counselor when we started the summer program. So I expect a well accepted summer on the kids and stuff like that. So that's my report for now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Looking forward to the sign dedication. How about Narcan? A report on that?
Any report on Narcan?
Not today, Council Vice President. I'll get that for you tomorrow, though.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any presentations or reports from our council?
I just have one thing. I want to recognize Mr. Andy Tyrone, who just recently passed away. He was a volunteer fireman for 70 years here in town. You don't see that very often. He was also a fire commissioner for 40 years and a past fire chief for 6 years. So I just wanted to recognize him and for his volunteerism in town for 70 years. It's amazing.
Just as a note, the criticism that, we haven't been keeping track of our longtime volunteers is a valid criticism. We should set something up where we have a spokesperson from every volunteer organization keeping track of that and letting us know. There's no way we could know every volunteer out there that's serving like that. But we should. And in order to do that, we need a feedback mechanism to accomplish that. So, I don't know, Mayor,
Well, I agree with you on that. I didn't even know
with regards to Mr. Tyrone, who I've known for many, many years. So there could be a mechanism. I know, Paul, you have the meetings with them?
Yeah, at our next meeting, I'll bring it up and ask them if they could
Yeah, notify the
your
township,
office,
yeah.
and this way it could get out to all of us.
All right, thank you.
Township Attorney, Mr. Lavery?
Yes, Council President, I have an update on the Mount Tabor Camp Meeting Association lease. As you may recall, at the last meeting, the Council Vice President made it clear that he wanted the lease out the next day with a 10-year term, which is what I did. We sent that to Mr. O'Neill, the Camp Meeting Association's attorney. Shortly thereafter, we received an email back that said that the changes, I had made 2 minor changes to the lease, which they believe are unacceptable. So I wanted to give the council an update and just give you some of the background of the lease. So under care and maintenance of the premises, it states that landlord, which is the Camp Meeting Association, shall deliver the premises to tenant, and tenant shall accept the premises from landlord as is, where is, and in its current condition. So what that means is they're not making any representations about whether it's good shape, bad shape, or not. We're responsible. Tenant shall be solely responsible for all fit-up and interior improvements within the premises. Tenant shall, at its own expense and at all times, maintain the premises in a good and safe condition, and shall surrender the same at termination hereof in as good a condition as received, normal wear and tear accepted. So we're taking responsibility for all the maintenance of it during the term of that lease. All repairs and replacements performed by the township pursuant to this Section 7 shall be performed in a good and workmanlike manner in accordance with, and I'm paraphrasing now, Secretary of the Interior Standards for Historic Preservation, since it is a contributing building to the Mount Tabor Historic District. So, again, not only are we agreeing to maintain it, we're agreeing to maintain it within those historic standards. Tenant shall be responsible for all ordinary repairs and maintenance of the interior of the premises as may be required during the term of this lease. Also, the township shall be responsible for maintenance and repairs to the HVAC system servicing the premises throughout the initial term of this lease. The only 2 changes I made were, there's a provision that said during the term of this lease, landlord shall make all necessary repairs to the foundation and the structure. I think as a matter of fundamental fairness, normally the landlord's responsible for that. We wouldn't be responsible for structural problems if they arose, but we would do repairs. It's the same thing with the HVAC system. The change I made here was that the landlord would be responsible if it had to be replaced. So if it has to be repaired or maintained, the township agreed to do that, but that if it had to be repaired, the system fails, and I don't know how old the system is, could be 2 years old, could be 20 years old, I don't know. So I think those are the only 2 changes that I requested. I think they're reasonable, especially under the circumstances that the township is going to be responsible to maintain all the systems, and Mr. O'Neill's response back was that those 2 changes were unacceptable.
Did he go into detail why they weren't acceptable?
He just said, hold on, I'll tell you exactly what he said. I've discussed the changes with my client, and I am afraid they are unacceptable. They reminded me that they had discussed this very issue with the mayor and were surprised by the change. I'm attaching the last draft of the lease that we sent over. Now, I think where the disconnect is that it was agreed that we would be responsible for maintenance, but the major systems, like the HVAC system, that's a different story. So is the foundation and the roof, the major structures. Everything else, we've agreed, and we agreed that we would maintain the premises. So that's the disconnect.
And we have been doing that previously, doing the maintenance work.
Well, all I know is that, normally that routine maintenance work would be our responsibility. I don't know what was done previously, but the major, and again, the 2 changes that I've asked for are not, this is pretty standard stuff. This is not anything out of the ordinary. And again, we don't own the building, so, and I would do that no matter who we were dealing with. But that's ultimately mayor and council's decision to make, but that's where we're at right now. So it's clear that we're responsible to maintain it. It's clear that we're responsible to maintain it in accordance with historic standards. It's just if there had to be an actual replacement of the HVAC system, the landlord would be responsible.
Thank you. Thank you for the
You're
update.
welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate it. Mr. Cryan, Business Administrator?
Thank you, Council President. Just a few really quick announcements. Summer hours for municipal building employees are in effect, like most municipalities. We have, and as in prior years, there's summer hours for our in-town workers, not for our collectively bargained units just for our administrative folks in here. Basically, they'll be working the same amount of hours, but they'll be taking half an hour lunch every Monday through Friday, instead of an hour lunch, and no lunch on Friday. So they will be leaving at 2 o'clock on Fridays until Labor Day. If there's any issues that you experience, please let us know, and we'll try to rectify it right away. All department heads and all staff have been notified that it's incumbent on them to respond as quickly as possible, and hopefully within 24 hours to any resident requests, particularly during this time, so we can do our best to continue to service you. Also, happy Independence Day coming up, 4th of July on Tuesday. As Mayor talked about the events that are going on, the building will be open Monday, July 3rd. Just wanted to let you know that. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Before you go any further, let's go back to the library for a minute. We got a report from our township attorney. We have a stalemate at this point in time. So, just accepting his report and not making a decision, it doesn't seem like we're going in the right direction. I assume that the question is, do we want to do all maintenance on that? That's in the contract? Or are we going to agree with our township attorney that we should not be responsible for the HVAC or the structure itself?
Well, do we know what the financial costs are to this? If the units do go down, what is the cost? I mean, it would have to, I believe, if I'm wrong, please correct me, would it have to go out to bid and so forth for us to take care of this? For the township to take care of it? Sir, anybody?
If we were going to maintain it, we would do it. That's not a problem. If we have to replace it and put out for bid for a new one, that's what we're talking about. Or if the roof were to break down, or something structurally on the building, we do not own the building. And it's a very old building. So those are the two questions coming to us. And the township attorney is asking the council and the mayor and the administration, what do we want to do? Do we want to assume all responsibility, or do we agree with the township attorney that those two items should be removed because we do not own the building?
If there's structural failure or the HVAC goes, as it stands, we don't pay for it, correct?
If the changes that I suggested
Yeah.
are agreed to, correct. We would
And
not
then
be
who pays, the
responsible.
CMA?
Right, correct.
It's their building.
Yeah, I don't think that we should be held responsible for any structural failure or HVAC going. I think that, the terms that you've laid out have been rather fair, and I don't think that we need to make those changes.
All right, any other
That's my
council
opinion.
members have an opinion, or the mayor?
Well, listen, I work with the township attorney, and he brought these concerns to me, and, I understand the concerns. If, we don't own the building, number one. Number two, I think we've been generous, very generous, handing over, $81,000 to maintain the library and keep it open. And now we're gonna do all the repairs, we're gonna do but why would we take over, why would we do all the structural? Because it's not our building, number one. Plus, it's a historical building, so you gotta take that into effect. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be up to the council, but I concur with the township attorney. I take his advice, and that is why, we have one.
I would also agree with the township attorney. We're very generous to do all we've done and what we want to take over as far as maintaining the facility historically, any type of maintenance, things of that nature. Even if we had repairs to the roof, I'm sure we would repair it, but to replace that and replace structure and replace HVAC, that's a lot of funding, and I'm not sure that's something we want to do,
No,
especially
no.
since we don't own the building.
Right.
Any other comments from the council?
In the past, do we know, like when the library was open 5-10 years ago, how did this work? I know if we did maintenance on the building, but if something major structurally, who paid for it? The owner of the building?
That's normally the way it works. I
Right.
don't know what the deal was, 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
We
but-
never had a structural problem, so it never really came up. we did maintain the building.
Right, that's what I thought.
With the current library on 202, right off 202, they just recently had a boiler put in. Who paid for that, the town or the library?
What's that?
The current library on Halsey Road, they just recently had some boiler work done, I believe. Or the one in Lake Hiawatha had some boiler work done. That came out of the library funding?
I would assume it would.
And just to be clear, any repairs to those systems, the town would be responsible for. So if there's repairs that need to be done to the HVAC system under this proposed lease, we would be responsible for that. It's just if it needed to be replaced. that-
Repairs can be quite expensive. I'm familiar with them, doing what I do in my field. So that's a very generous offer.
But we also have a third party in this, the library board. What is their obligation in this? We're paying this to keep the library open. We're assuming all maintenance obligations, and what is the library assuming?
Well, with regards to keeping the library open, the funding's not coming from the library, it's coming from the township. We're
I
subsidizing it.
said that.
I know, but that's the point, so it's not the library that's, functioning on that.
My point is, okay, they have some blood in this too. You know, it's a library operation. We're doing this, we're funding this for the residents in Mount Tabor, but for the library, who do not want to fund it.
Well,
Now, so where is their commitment in this?
well, they're
So
recommending.
far, I heard from the CMA and I heard from the township.
Okay,
I didn't hear from the library.
well, because the library's recommendation was to close the town. So we're the ones that funded it to keep it open. That's the difference.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. Mr. Lavery, have they given any indication that there is a problem with the system?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
And I think, I know I said it earlier, but because we're taking it as is, that's an even bigger concern with regard to those type of systems. So it's clearly stated in the lease that we're accepting that building as is, all those systems as is. So it makes it even more important, I think, to make sure that if the major system goes, that the landlord's responsible.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this Mount Tabor Library?
It sounds like we have a majority of the council that agree with the township attorney.
Can we get a motion on that then, if everybody agrees, so this way we could put this to bed?
Fine?
Motion to
reaffirm
accept.
the lease as it stands?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, a motion to accept as it stands,
As modified.
as modified.
Well, okay, so Justin, did you make the motion initially?
To reaffirm the lease as it stands, right, that's the motion.
Okay,
I second
so,
that.
so you second that motion?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia pertaining to the lease of the Mount Tabor Library. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Township Clerk, Mr. Madden, any reports?
No report at this time, Council President, thank you.
Township offices, committees, reports? Any? No?
I had a library committee meeting last night, and aside from the Mount Tabor library, some of the other items brought up, or one of the other items brought up were the grant and matching grant, and I recommended that library and the town BA get together and have a meeting to discuss it, because they seemed a little confused as to which direction to go, and they were considering releasing the funding so another entity can utilize it, because that's what would happen if it went back. And I recommended they meet with the town BA prior.
Okay.
Real quick,
I'll reach
Mr.
out to
Lavery,
them tomorrow. Sure.
they could, so if they accept this agreement, they could open the next day? Or once we go
Yeah,
in there
once the
and
lease is
just...
signed, yep.
Right?
Yes.
They could open the next day, okay.
In regard to the Lake Hiawatha Library, I think it was discussed at some point if we could possibly go to different corporations to possibly help with the cost. I know the cost have gone significantly up. I mean, we're looking at what, $9 million now to refurbish or to build a new library in Lake Hiawatha?
Pretty close to that. I think it was like 8.8 or 8.9.
Something, it was close to 9 mil, if
Yeah.
I remember.
That's correct.
Has anything, has that been suggested to the library board?
We,
I don't know.
listen, we have spoken with regards to having fundraisers, raising money. $3 million is a lot to make up. It's not like you're gonna go get that kind of money. What we need to decide, we're gonna have a meeting with Melissa. What we need to decide is, and I said this, do you wanna put another bond up to cover the 3 million that we already put in, and then another 3 million? And then on top of the matching grant that they got, that'll get you there, but then we'll be floating that bond at a higher rate. Right now, I mean, the rates, when they first got the bond, were about 0.5%. Now they're 5-6%. So that's gonna be that's one way, but, you know, we have some other things that we think we can discuss with them. And cutting back and with the library, remember, in order for them to get that $3 million grant, there's a certain percentage of repairs that have to be made, or that have to be made in order to get that grant. So if we were to cut so much out and they get below it, they wouldn't be able to use the $3 million grant.
I see, okay. So,
So I'm gonna have the BA reach out tomorrow. We're gonna have a meeting with them. I don't know, Frank, you wanna be in, you're the liaison, to the committee? But, you know, we're gonna have to make a decision, you know, do we wanna put another $3 million towards it? And that's right now, you know, with the rates and the bonds. Now, I don't know if we can go through the improvement authority, which is a less of a rate, with the county, which will get us to 2.5% instead of 5-6%, you know, that would be, I don't know, I think, if maybe I'm wrong, township attorney, if it's eligible for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You know, so, but that's another avenue we could take to get a lower bond rate. But, you know, you gotta decide, $9 million on a library that started at 6.5. So,
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Engineering report, please, Mr. Griffey?
2021 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. The annual road resurfacing curb and sidewalk project is on hold pending negotiations with the contractor. No council action required. Rockaway River flood wall levee inspection. Our consultant is working on preparing design details and the cost estimate for the maintenance and repair work to the flood wall and levee. Recent site inspections were made to aid the design and repairs. Once the design and necessary permitting is complete, the project will be advertised for bid. No council action required. North Beverick Road Streetscape Project Phase 1. The bids for the first phase of North Beverick Road Streetscape were opened May 3rd, 2023, and the total bid prices were significantly higher than budgeted. We were granted an extension to award the project, and we will rebid the project at a more appropriate time. No council action required. 2023 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. The annual road resurfacing curb and sidewalk project pre-construction meeting will be held in mid-June, now that all documents are fully executed. Construction is anticipated to begin after July 10th. No council action required. Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 7. The pre-construction meeting for the Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 7 project will be held in mid-June. We anticipate construction beginning in early July and continuing through the end of October. Some of the roadway stormwater runoff will drain through pipes on the Mount Tabor Elementary School property. An excess agreement for the drainage construction has been drafted and will need to be executed. A resolution endorsing the access agreement will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Drumlin Drive stream cleaning, NJDEP permits have been issued for this project. Our consultant is finishing the design, and we intend to bid the project later this year. No council action required. Pudding Stone Heights Road Improvement Project Phase 2. The second phase of the Pudding Stone Heights Road Improvement Project is in design. We anticipated bidding the project later this year. No council action required. Jefferson Road improvements. We received a $760,000 NJDOT grant for improvements to Jefferson Road from Parsippany Road to Smith Road. The improvements include resurfacing of the roadway, minor intersection upgrades, and significant drainage improvements, particularly near the East Halsey Road intersection. A pre-application meeting with the NJDEP was held, and permit applications and plan are being prepared. The project will be bid once NJDEP permits have been issued. No council action required. Lake Intervale Area Street Improvements. The first phase of the Lake Intervale Area Street Improvements Project is in design. We anticipate bidding the project later this year. No council action required. Sylvan Way culvert improvements. Notification was received that we were awarded $775,000 NJDOT grant to make repairs to the Sylvan Way culvert. We are working with our design professionals to prepare plans and the NJDEP permit application. We anticipate bidding this project in early 2024. No council action required. Endorsement of the NJDOT municipal aid grant. We are in the process of preparing and submitting a grant application through the NJDOT municipal aid grant program. The application is for improvements to Vale Road from Route 46 to Baldwin Road. The project includes milling and resurfacing of the roadway, upgrading of the handicap ramps, minor drainage improvements, and enhanced traffic striping and markings. A resolution endorsing the application will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Roadway design projects. The following road projects are in design or proposals have been requested: Troy Brook stream cleaning, Sylvan Way sidewalk improvements, river and stream desnagging plans and permits, Etten Road traffic study. No council action required.
Bids taken, June 15th, 2023, Mount Tabor Phase 1 Water Main Replacement. 6/21/23, Brook Lawn Water Tank Rehabilitation. There are no quotations, proposals, or qualifications. I'd like to entertain a motion, please, to open the public session.
Take a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Floor is open to the public on any matter. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Council members, how are you? Thomas Armenti, 92 Hillside Terrace, Parsippany. Good to see everyone. My issue is more of a safety issue. My street was marked out to be paved a couple of years ago. For whatever particular rhyme or reason, it still hasn't been paved. I called the Mayor's Action Center about a year ago and had some large potholes that were in front of my house paved or filled in. And recently I came home from work around 11 o'clock the other evening, and those potholes have now cracked and faded or dissipated. I stepped in a large pothole and almost seriously injured my ankle and had to limp into my home. So I just want to find out what's going on with that. That was marked out to be paved. The street over Alexander Ave was paved, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago. My street was marked out to be paved. I just want to know what's going on with that.
I'm sorry, which street?
Hillside Terrace.
I don't have that information with me, but
I know it was on the list, because I remember talking to the road department at the time, and Sal and everybody else over there, or whoever else. They told me my street was on the list, but it was never paved, rather. Mr. Musella, my taxes have gone up how much in the last 2 years?
About 20%.
About 20%. So I never had any children that went to the school district, 20% tax increase, and I can't even get solid footing on my street to walk on safely. Would you think that was an issue?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's no back.
Excuse me, Mr. Armenti, it is an issue, and you could have talked to me. We go to many meetings together. You never even approached me to discuss this matter. So, Tom, all you have to do is come and speak to me. And we can give you the list of roads that are being repaired and when they're being repaired.
Mr. Mayor, in all due respect, I did call the Mayor's Action Center. They did come, they filled in some of the potholes, but like I said, now those potholes have gave way, and it's an issue.
Well, when they fill the potholes up, they're filling up to get a quick fix at that time.
I understand that.
But don't forget, as you know, it's a 6-year plan. Not only is it a 6-year plan, we have to look at to see, now I know they told you, I guess, whatever, the engineer told you, that it's on the, what do you call it, on the list.
Of course.
I don't know if you know that, their budget has been cut drastically. Okay, over in 2021, it went from 7 million to 1.8 million, so there was no repairs that year. Going into the last year, okay, we had to even also cut it even more, not more, we had to cut it, but we got to back up to 3-4 million. This year, I think we got even higher. So, we're gonna do what we can do. But like I said, you know me, you could have just confronted me about it.
All right, hopefully you'll be getting a list if you'd like to call the engineering department again.
I will do that,
and
I
they
will
get
follow
the
up with
list.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
will follow up with you, Mr. Barbera. On a side note, I just like to, council members, I just like to acknowledge a very close friend of mine who was a He did the town vending machines for many years in the police department, town hall, and the library. He passed away a couple of weeks ago of a heart attack, Mr. William Ackerley, and, he was he was a township person and a great guy. And I think he did the vending machines in the township for mayor, I don't know what, 3 or 4 decades?
Yeah.
A long, long time, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll say this about Mr. Ackley. You know who Mr. Ackley is, right, Emery? He would come to town hall every time just to come to visit, to talk. He's a staple in the community on Lake Parsippany. Good man. The family's been in Parsippany, God, for 70 years, maybe. So, I commend Tom for bringing his name up.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Kevin Northover. I'm a resident of Mount Tabor, and I'm the current president of the Mount Tabor Camp Meeting Association. And I made the recommendation to the Board of Trustees to reject the lease. Before I go into the reasons for that, I'd like to give an answer to the question the Council President asked.
Speak into the mic a little bit.
Can you pull it out of there if you want, sir?
I'd like to give an answer to the question the Council President asked, which is who was responsible for the maintenance of the building and has continued to be responsible for the maintenance under the continuation of the old lease with the library for the last 8 years while not receiving any rent payment. The answer is the CMA has always been responsible for maintaining the fabric, the foundations and the HVAC in the building, and we are happy to continue to do so. But I think before I go into anything further, I should also explain to the Council precisely how the CMA manages these historical buildings. We operate on the basis that we accrue reserves. We run a financial model and we have a 20-year look-ahead plan for all our buildings. We look at the expected spend and the year in which we expect to spend it on things like roof replacement and HVAC and all the other capital items. It's a rolling plan. It is updated every year. We accrue reserves against that plan. We have also, in the specific case of the library, because of, let's say, the volatility of the payments by the library board under the old lease, in other words, they haven't paid for 8 years, built a financial model of the library payments against the expected costs for managing the building, including risk factors for things like major items that are unknowns, like say a roof beam breaks. That includes replacement of the roof, which, by the way, everybody who has been involved in these discussions over the past few years knows, including the township engineer who has looked at it, is due in a year or two. In fact, our town manager would like to do it in the coming year. It includes replacement of the HVAC, includes painting the building. When you discount all that, plus the risks of the library deciding to cease operating, so that the CMA then carries the risk of the building and any maintenance done, you can easily build a financial model for that. You can also easily discount it back to the present day and pick a rent that will cover that cost and risk. That rent turns out to be about $4,000 a year. The library was paying, before they chose to ignore all these considerations, $3,900. We will happily sign a lease and take all responsibility for the maintenance of the external fabric along the lines that Michael Lavery has outlined. And as usual in any tenant agreement, we would expect the tenant, that is the library board, to be responsible for their interior fittings and the interior maintenance. So I'm sure Mr. Lavery will agree those are all standard terms. We will happily do that in exchange for the same rent payment as we had 8 years ago. But the only thing the CMA has ever asked for is that the funding for the maintenance of the fabric of the building be assured and that there be a clear source of that funding. The library board has chosen to wash its hands of the building. We really do appreciate the township providing the funds it has to the library board. But the last time I talked with a representative of the library, they told me flat out that it was the obligation of the township to provide a building to them free of charge. That's a direct quote. So you can understand that I'm in a rather difficult situation. The community wants the library to be open. I have a responsibility as a trustee, and so do all the Board of Trustees, to ensure that we manage our finances and we carefully plan for the maintenance of these buildings in a historic district. We're willing to do that at the same rate as we were 8 years ago. We can manage that, and we'll take the risks involved in the building. We do it for much bigger buildings. As a case in point, many of you are familiar with the Tabernacle building.
Sir, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. The quick answer is, if any of those poles that hold up the roof of the Tabernacle break, we're in deep trouble. There are no trees that big in the eastern United States anymore. So we accrue funds for those risks. We know how to manage historical buildings. All we've ever asked is that you help us to do it properly and fund it properly. Thank you.
Sir, before you go, what was the amount per year you stated?
$3,900 was the rent right up until the library board elected to stop paying, even though, by the way, they still budgeted for it about 8 years ago.
A year.
$3,900 a year.
Okay, thank you.
And at that rate, we can manage the maintenance of the structure of the library. We know we can do it. We're good at this. It's what we do.
If Kevin's time is up, you have other library people here, so they can yield their time. Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. But that's been the CMA's position for 8
I
years.
do have a question. What was the year that they stopped paying? I believe you mentioned
About
2000.
It's 8 years ago. It's about,
8 years ago?
it's 2014 or 2015. I don't have those details with me, but you probably still don't have it, but I remember we had a meeting with the library board a number of years ago, and I gave you a summary of the breakdown of the payments then. So this is something that we have been dealing with for a long time. It's really simple. If you want all we're saying is if you want a $1 a year lease agreement, we'll sign it, but you take the responsibility. If you want us to take the responsibility, then the only thing we ask for is a fair rent that covers our costs.
Okay. I believe someone else is willing to speak on behalf.
No, she was yielding her time.
You're yelling. I
Yeah.
apologize. Okay, continue.
Are there any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
Just so I understand, who are you proposing pays the rent? The CMA will continue to pay the rent, or the
No,
town?
the CMA receives the rent. We're the landlord. I'm saying is we are happy to continue to be the landlord. We are happy to continue to maintain the structure and the fabric of the building. We are expecting to replace the roof and the HVAC within the next 5 to 6 years, which we estimate, last time we estimated that, we were looking at a spend in the order of $18,000 to $20,000 to do that. This is what we accrue for, and we accrue for it over a plan. And we run a 20-year plan on these buildings. I mean, we know exactly what it costs to maintain that building. We know exactly what our exposure
Sir,
is.
you're saying that you'd rather have the town pay the $3,900 for the year,
I'm saying you can
and
do it.
you'll
either-
maintain it rather than us
Yeah,
maintaining it?
Yeah. But,
I like that.
Definitely candid, the CMA doesn't care what the source of the funds are. The Board of Trustees doesn't care. All we want to ensure is that we have adequate funding to maintain a building that is in a historic district that is over 100 years old and which has the expenses associated with that building. And we know what they are.
Let
and we
me
know how
break
to do
this
it.
down the way I understand it now. If we're going to assume responsibility to maintain all unanticipated expenses, air conditioner, roof, whatever, okay, we can't budget for that because we have no idea what's going to happen. On the other hand, if we agree to, we're already paying $80,000 to keep the library open, right, out of our budget. If we pay another $4,000, right, then that we can budget for. We don't have an unwritten risk of, whatever the amount is to repair something.
Yep.
I could accept that.
I just want to make sure I understand. So, another $4,000, then we no longer assume responsibility of maintaining the building?
That's been a proposition that the CMA has had on the table for 8 years. And somehow, we've come to the edge of agreeing various deals at various times over the past years through successive administrations. And they've always fallen at the last minute because either the library attorneys have jibbed at them or the township attorneys have jibbed at them. But the one thing nobody has ever offered us in that time is to do what we were doing before the library decided it was going to stop paying the rent.
It can cost us a lot more than $3,900 a year to maintain that building. I mean, if a motor goes on your HVAC, we maintain the building, it's gonna cost us more than $3,900.
I gotta intervene real quick.
$3,900 a year for 10 years.
I mean, can I intervene real quick if I can? I met with their attorney. I never discussed this with him, with regards to the 3,900 or the 4,000. That's something, if we discuss it, that's something I would have brought to you, and I would have put that on the table. I think what happened was the fact that the library, we couldn't function anymore. We weren't interested in taking the building over, so I had a meeting with the attorney, just him and I, with regards to that. And if that's what you guys want to do, I think it's much more common sense in the sense that all we're going to give them is $4,000 a year to lease it, to have it, and then they handle all the repairs.
So the lease would just be changed to pay $4,000.
Right, and then we would have to change the language to say that.
Yeah, could be there's be some technical changes in the language, but, Mr. Lavery, Mr. O'Neill and I can work those out in
I think
in
that's a
minutes.
win-win for both of us.
Yeah,
And you can make it either quarterly payments or one payment of.
yeah, it was previously quarterly payment.
We need a motion to do that?
Yes.
I'd love to make that motion.
Who's making the motion?
Mr. Karifi.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
And Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate it.
Can we get this done ASAP so they can open the library?
Right away.
I have a copy of the lease with me tonight. If Mr. Lavery is agreeable, we can go through it with a pen and make the changes, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Somebody else can listen with this.
Yeah, that's fine, you can move.
Contribute
They didn't have the money they claimed.
Hi. Carla Tucciarelli, 90 Morris Avenue. I just wanted to say that we meaning my two children and I, you've all met my daughter, have been very excited going to the library the past 2-3 times that they've had a pop-up library when we were in the country. And I just want to say that the librarians are really excited to do it. We're very excited for the library. My kids keep asking me, when is the library going to open? When can we actually go in? So I just want to say thank you for working this out, and hopefully we won't have to do this for another 50 years.
My name is Patrick D.V. Antonio. I live at 870 Table Road. I have 2 issues here. I'm going to try and keep it quick and within my time. Both of which have been going on for an extended period of time. And Councilman Masella, Karifi, Mr. Cryan, his predecessor, Mr. Carr, have all been involved in this. And I need to bring it to a head. I need to get it resolved. Item number 1 has to do with 874 Table Road. Last August, I saw them coming in with heavy equipment. They were bringing in stone, paving equipment. I went over there. I said, what are you doing? You're not allowed to pave and raise the grade in a flood zone. They said they had a permit. So they had a problem, called the town. So I called engineering. They knew nothing about it. But apparently zoning had issued him a permit. Engineering went out there, they stopped the work. They agreed with me. And they told me they're not gonna restore the property this fall because in October you can't grow grass. And I just said, okay, I wasn't gonna argue with them. And they said they would repair it and return the grade in the surfaces this spring. Well, spring is past. Nothing has been done. I told them, you increase the grades, you raise the grades, and the flood waters from Rottenham Brook flow further onto my property against my house. And yesterday was a prime example of it. And, you know, I called, and I sent emails last night. Justin, you were copied. Paul, you were copied. Jamie, you were copied. I sent you pictures of what was going on, and nothing's been done. I made 4 calls to BA today. No one knew where he was, and no one ever called me back despite promises. I still don't have an answer when 874 Table Road is going to return to its condition. You also put a bridge back there in 2021. I never got notice from DEP. I'm within 200 feet. So I want to know, when is this property going to be returned to its original condition?
Is that your only question, sir?
I got one more for another property. Want me to get into that one now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
It has to do with 84 Table Road. I'm only going to go to one aspect of this, because there's been a long 5-year issue with these people. I first brought it to the town attention 20 months ago to housing, okay, because the owner there threatened me, so I quit dealing with them. And the issues, and I'm only going to talk about the issue with the trees. You got dead and dying trees that threatened my house and threatened my utility lines. So after about a year, he finally cuts them down, and he makes this long pile of logs and branches and whatever, 100 feet long, 5 feet high. And finally, I'm saying, this is unacceptable. You know, it looks like, I don't want to use a 4-letter word here, but that's what it looks like. So they finally, on May 28th, they cut it up and they stack it up, or a 100 feet long stack. And I called the housing. I said, this is not acceptable. What's going to happen? The next time it floods, the floodwater is going to take this debris, it's going to wash it down the street, it's going to collect on other properties, it's going to cause dams, and it's going to add to the problem. And yesterday, and I put this in writing, even though housing told me all the problems on the property have been abated, that was their words, I respectfully disagreed, and what I just told you, I told them in writing. You were copied. You were copied and you were copied. Well, yesterday it rains, the brook rises 6 or 7 feet, it takes all the stuff, it deposits it, some of them on my yard, some on the neighbor's yard. The neighbor to the south has to call Tree King to come over there today to cut up all the branches and logs on the property, and I got a mess on my property too. And one of the things, I got a utility pole on my property. And all the branches formed this big 5-foot long by 2-foot high dam that the water was flowing at a good rate against, and it's compromised my utility pole. And it's still there. So I sent emails on that again. No answer. I think the town's responsible. I'm not dealing with the owner. I'm not getting threatened again by him. These people, I'm not doing that. And I think the town needs to come over, clean up my yard, and replace my utility pole, because it's failure of the administration of this township that has caused this problem. We've had conversations on it, Justin. I met you on April 17th, we talked about it. We also talked about the other problem, and I don't have any answers. I still don't have any answers, and this problem's been going on for years. I want answers.
Right?
Thank you. I understand your frustration.
You didn't agree with me. You even said I would have complained about the same things you complained about.
Sorry, sir, no interaction. Let him speak. You have your turn, let him speak now.
I understand your frustration. You have a beautiful property. Your neighbor does not maintain his property as well as you do. You have an issue that you pointed out to the township a couple of houses down with the regrading and all of that, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's in the process of being corrected. Now, The township has answered, I'd say, well over 100 emails from you.
No.
I'm just looking at my emails now.
20.
I would say well over 100.
No, they're wrong. I'm going to interrupt you on that. but they're wrong.
All right,
Whether it's 20 over 100, most of these things are court matters and between neighbors. It's a neighborhood dispute, a neighbor's dispute. So we try to help as much as we possibly can. It wasn't the township that said the issues were abated. It was the court that said the issue was abated to their standards.
Based on
Now,
what?
I know it's not your standards, and I would be upset if my neighbor did not take care of the property as well as you do or as well as I do. I completely understand that. But according to the courts, those issues were abated. Now, as far as for the 884, the 874, and as far as nobody knowing where I am today, I think everybody here knows where I am. Please. Everybody here knows where I am. I answered your email I sent you an email this morning.
You said you'd call me.
I was saying that I would get this to the engineers,
So you
and as
said
soon as I get,
you'd call me.
okay.
all right, sir,
Sir,
Yeah, let him finish.
So as soon as, this is an engineering matter. I've been out to your house a number of times. We've had you here with the whole group to try to answer all of these issues. We've had housing out to your house a number of times. We've had engineering out to your house a number of times, right?
Never.
Never?
Housing has never been my house. Engineering has never been my house.
They had to come to your house to cite, they had to come to your house to
No.
cite the neighbor.
No.
They had to.
No,
they didn't
they've
do it
never come to
blindly.
my house.
all right, this isn't a back and
But
forth.
either
You
way.
had your time, sir. He's answering your
He's
question.
not telling the truth. What are you supposed to do?
Sir,
Stay here?
please, you spoke, you had your time, let him answer. You could disagree with his answer, but let him, unless you don't want his answer, so.
But either way, with the engineering issue that you have, it takes an engineer to take a look at that and fix it. Now, last night was a bad storm, there was a number of issues around town. The engineers were on the field all day today. I didn't know that, but they were on the field all day. They were dealing with a car running onto one of our fields. They were dealing with a field actually moving. So
Sinkholes.
there's a lot of issues that they were dealing with. Now, your issues, they are going to get to you. All is going to get back out to you. I just talked to Justin before I came in here, and he said that Paul will be reaching out to you first thing in the morning and hopefully stopping by to look at this issue and help rectify it. Now, these, that cliche, the wheels of government move slowly, it's true, unfortunately, but it's also in place because we can't go into a neighbor's home and just take them out. And just because we're not happy with the way that they're doing things, change it immediately. It's hard to do that stuff. And this is a neighborhood dispute.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, sir, you had your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Crime?
Paul will be out tomorrow.
He's not telling the truth. My issue goes back 55 years. 55 years.
How am I going to?
Maybe, well, what, if I could speak, because I know Mr. DiVantonio, and we've spoken at length about this issue. Maybe what I suggest is after this appointment tomorrow, we can set up a meeting, with the business administrator and go over what next steps are probably the best, so you can find some resolution towards this matter. And I'm happy to attend to, be an advocate. But, I will trust our business administrator that people will be there tomorrow, and you can talk to me, and then we can set something up. How does that sound?
Yeah, set up a time, I'll let you know. I'm sure I'll probably be there. It hasn't been abated, because exactly what I said happened.
Sir, I'm sorry. Please.
Just,
We have a-
I can't let it go.
May I
Yes,
please
go ahead.
respond?
Yes, go ahead,
Listen,
ma'am.
Mr. DiVantonio, we've given you the option to come here to meet, and you met. We've heard your concerns, and I trust my business administrator that he has been on it. He has spoken to me about it, and I know you're not getting the answers you want right away, or you're not getting the things, but we can't go into somebody's house and tell them, we're gonna remove this, we're gonna do that and this. No, you spoke. There's a process here. Okay, we're not gonna go in there and do that, but what we're going to do is, like he said, we're gonna have the engineer contact you tomorrow morning. There's no meeting we could set up a meeting. There's no meeting where a council member needs to be involved and in there, we will direct the council what we did, okay? We're not ignoring you. I've lived all my life like you have. I've gone by that, and I would say to Hazel, what's going on over there with the house? But then again, so you have rights, they have rights. And that's where we are right now.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to come forward?
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.
You took the pen?
All right, Bob.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
My name is Bob Venezia, and a few months ago, the council made the decision to change the sign-in procedure for members of the public who wish to speak during the public portion of the town council meeting. Today, a speaker must only give his or her name, whereas previously, both name and address were required. In my opinion, this seemingly inconsequential policy change was a mistake, and it should be reversed. I think it is very important to know if an opinion expressed at the podium is coming from a Parsippany resident or for someone who lives in another town or even another county. During the highly contested ordinance last year, speakers in the audience from all over the state of New Jersey overwhelmed the voices of Parsippany residents. In fact, one individual who listed Summers Point as his home address had to make a 4.5-hour round trip to the Parsippany Municipal Building to address the council. Just hearing the word Summers Point set off alarm bells for me, and it should have done the same thing for you guys. You don't make that kind of trek unless you expect to reap substantial personal gain if the council votes in your favor. In general, an opinion expressed by any non-resident of Parsippany is usually about personal gain with very little concern about its impact on the town. After all, they don't have to live with the consequences. The motive of a public session speaker is important, and not knowing whether a person is a resident of Parsippany or a resident of Summers Point obscures that motive. Furthermore, I believe that council members have an obligation to assign greater weight to the opinions of their constituents rather than to non-residents who are not represented by this council. Theoretically, a group of out-of-town residents could have more influence over how Parsippany is governed than the residents themselves if the audience is packed with outsiders who do not have to declare where they are from. Tonight, I would like someone from the council to make a motion to reinstate at a minimum a person's town of residence as a requirement to speak in front of the council. If no such motion is made, then I would like each council member to explain his or her rationale in removing address as a requirement. Thank you.
I believe it was state law that.
Yeah, that was not
Yeah,
made, that was not made by us.
Yeah, it was,
The
there's a
state
law
did
called,
that?
there's a law called,
Daniel's
there's a
Law.
law called Daniel's Law where a federal court judge's son was murdered by somebody who didn't like a decision she had made. So what happens now is, under Daniel's Law, you can't, for instance, 200-foot lists in land use thing, people are addressing them to resident or whatever, because when somebody enters their name, that's either law enforcement, a judge, or whatever, they get put on the list. So we can't now ask somebody where they live. You can ask for their name. Some towns aren't even asking them to state their name. So it's not something that the council decided. This is state law.
State law.
And it took them a
I'm not
year.
asking for the whole address, just the town, not the town.
That's not what we're permitted to do. Unfortunately, this young man lost his life because the mother was a judge, and the gentleman that murdered him did not like the mother's decision. And this young man lost his life, and the father was very seriously injured. and it's called Daniel's Law.
Well, he probably would have found out where the guy, if he really wanted to get him, he would have found out where he lived, whether it was here or not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, 'cause it makes a big difference on, what decisions you're gonna make.
We didn't agree with the law. Nobody asked us.
Plus, any member of the public can come up and speak. It doesn't really matter where they're from. It's a public meeting.
Yeah, they can come up and speak, but
Yeah, so,
I wanna know where they're coming from.
well,
They can come up and speak.
I know, but
Thank you, Mr.
I'm not,
Venezia.
I'm not telling them they can't come up and speak.
Anyone else?
My name, rank, and serial number is classified. I'm here to request, and Mr. Masello, Councilman Masello, you're part of the Environmental Committee, so I want you to have your attention especially. I'm asking to strengthen the 392 ordinance, destruction or removal of trees. And I would like you to consider the fact that Parsippany, I want to read you something to see if we can work this into this ordinance. Based on my office's Indiana bat buffers, this portion of Parsippany-Troy Hills is in the area where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife would typically recommend a timing restriction on tree removal activities. No tree removals between April 1st and November 15th because it falls within 10 miles of the Indiana bat hypercrulium. I'm not saying that right, but hypernaclium, excuse me. Also, the migratory bird nesting season is April 1st to August 31st. So the service typically recommends that people avoid conducting vegetation removal during these months to avoid accidentally removing, taking down an active migratory bird nest. If a freshwater wetland permit was needed for this work, these recommendations would likely have been included in the permit's condition. So I'm asking our local ordinance to imitate as if a wetlands permit to protect the demise of the populations of our birds, and especially the bats. All of Parsippany is within the range of the Indiana bats. Now that we're in the Highlands Conformance, we have these, it's a form of a resource inventory, and it has 16 categories about any block lot that exists anywhere in the Highlands or in Parsippany. And if you look at critical habitat, you will see red-shouldered hawk, Indiana bat, wood thrush, bobcat, and tiger spiketail, just for some examples. So if we can have a meeting with the Environmental Committee to see if we can work this into our ordinance to help protect our wildlife that exists with us here in this part of the world. So, all right?
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you. Okay, seeing no one else,
Make a motion to close?
Second?
motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero. Mr.
Yes.
Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
And Ms. Grignani.
Yes,
Floor is closed.
Ordinance 2023:9, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills adopting the 20-30 Landadex Plaza West redevelopment plan. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on June 27th, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on July 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2023:08, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Morris County, New Jersey, donating certain property to the Parsippany Volunteer Ambulance Squad. The notice for ordinance 2023:08 was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on May 22nd, 2023, and introduced at the May 17th, 2023 regular meeting. Motion to accept ordinance 2023:08 be heard in their second and final reading by title only by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2023:08 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Karifi, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Floor is open to the public on this ordinance only. Seeing no one.
Motion to close the public hearing for this ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading, and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution above for ordinance 2023:08 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2023-099, authorizing the appointment of 5 new police officers. Motion to approve the resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
And Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
R 2023-100, authorizing approval to submit a grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Vale Improvement Project. Motion to approve the resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
R 2023-101, authorizing the execution of a health benefit administrative contract to Boone Chapman Benefit Administrators. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda. Be it resolved that all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item would be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Karifi. Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion
Approval of
passes.
payroll and bills list. CFO Leonard Ho recommends authorization for payment. Authorized payment of the June 23rd, 2023 regular miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,650,000. Payment of bills from voucher list of 6/15/23 through 6/17/23 at $2,784,954.51. Motion to approve the authorization for payment by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Piro. Mr.
Yes.
Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chester?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia. Ms.
Yes.
Grignani.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for sending